Hi everyone, my name is Brandon, and welcome back to News4Teens. On August 16th, President Biden signed into law the Inflation Reduction Act of 2022, or IRA for short. This new $737 billion act includes the largest energy and climate investment in U.S. history, as well as significant measures to lower healthcare costs and decrease the federal deficit. In this video, I'll provide a high-level background on the journey of getting this historic bill approved by Congress and the key provisions included in the bill. The Inflation Reduction Act initially started out as President Biden's Build Back Better Act. The initial proposal was directed at improving the country's infrastructure and economy and had various price tags ranging from $1.75 trillion to $6 trillion. In its many variations, the BBB Act failed to garner enough support to pass Congress. As mentioned in my previous video, in order for a bill to become law, it must first be approved by both bodies of Congress. If a bill passes both the House of Representatives and the Senate, it is then sent to the President for the President's approval. The key roadblock for the BBB Act was its inability to get a majority of the Senate to support it. With no Republican senators on board, the Democrats needed all 50 Democrats in the Senate. But two Senators Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema, positioned themselves as holdouts. Under a new deal and a new name, a new version of the BBB Act was introduced as the Inflation Reduction Act. The IRA included several compromises which appear to have been introduced in order to win support from Senators Manchin and Sinema. Now priced much lower at $737 billion, the IRA was passed by the Senate on August 7th along party lines, with Vice President Kamala Harris acting as the tiebreaker. Subsequently, the bill was approved by the House of Representatives on August 12th, also along party lines. President Biden signed the bill into law on August 16th. Although no Republicans from the House or the Senate voted for the bill, the Democratic Party leaders believe that this new legislation will address many of the top concerns shared by Americans. These include climate change, healthcare costs, inequitable tax policies, and inflation. Climate change takes the center stage as the primary focus of the IRA, with $369 billion invested in energy security and climate reform. This is America's first significant bill aimed at combating climate change and includes three primary efforts to achieve this goal. The efforts involve lowering the cost of renewable energy for consumers, which includes extending incentives for electric vehicles and introducing measures to make homes more energy efficient, such as providing rebates on energy-efficient home appliances and tax credits for solar installations. Building a clean energy economy through investments in renewable energy infrastructure, such as increasing America's manufacturing capabilities for solar panels and wind turbines. This will also help create millions of manufacturing, construction, and service industry jobs in the U.S. Reducing greenhouse gas emissions with a goal that by 2030, emissions will be reduced by roughly 40% based on 2005 levels. Without the IRA, the reduction would only be by 30%. This 10% difference equates to a reduction of more than 1 gigaton or a billion metric tons of CO2 by 2030. As the U.S. moves to make significant investments in addressing climate change, the belief is that other countries, such as China, will respond similarly with hopes of making their country the best source for clean energy solutions. There are reasons to believe that this form of economic competition will increase the rate of innovation, and consequently, as a planet, we will have access to better and more cost-effective solutions to address climate change than without the IRA's climate investments. The bill's second area of focus is on reducing healthcare costs. Some of the highlights in the IRA include expanding Medicare benefits such as limiting out-of-pocket costs, allowing the government to begin negotiating prices for costly Medicare drugs, requiring pharmaceutical companies to issue a rebate when prices of existing Medicare prescription drugs rise faster than the rate of inflation, and extending health insurance premium subsidies under the Affordable Care Act through 2025, previously set to expire in 2024. Tax reform is the third area of focus for the IRA. The tax provisions in the bill have two main goals: addressing what many people believe are inequitable tax policies and reducing the federal government's deficit. By introducing tax reform to address several inequitable tax policies, the tax provisions in the IRA will raise revenue for the government and thereby lower the deficit. The revenue is projected to be generated primarily by instituting a 15% minimum tax rate for corporations with annual profits that exceed $1 billion and imposing a 1% fee on corporate stock buybacks. Taking into account all the components of the bill, the Democrats project that the IRA will cut the federal budget deficit by over $300 billion over the coming decade, as shown in the figure boxed in green on the left. To the right, the black line in the chart shows the overall decrease in the country's deficit through the year 2031. The biggest drivers of deficit reduction are the 15% corporate minimum tax, shown in light blue on the bar graph, and the reforms to prescription drug pricing, shown in darker blue. So how does all of this help reduce inflation as suggested by the name of the bill? Without going into an economics lesson, the basic definition of inflation is a general increase in prices. In a simplified world, inflation occurs when the demand for something like goods is greater than the supply of the goods. Many supporters and critics of the bill claim that the naming of the bill is clever marketing, appealing to a public that is worried about rising prices. Setting aside that only time will tell whether the bill will significantly impact inflation, the passing of the Inflation Reduction Act is historic. The bill makes significant steps to reduce healthcare costs and is by far the largest climate investment in U.S. history. Its passing serves to demonstrate to other countries that the U.S. is dedicated to combating climate change and encourages others to share in the challenge. Thanks for watching, and I hope you learned something new.